I said, that's not good enough. What about all these other folks with intellectual disability? What are they getting? Some of the best solutions we do are the most simplest solutions.
Yeah.
To have that opportunity to be social and technical at the same time is a really great thing. They've never thought their child would be able to ride a bike, and then you see the tears, you see the transformation and the confidence of that young person from saying, I can now do what I see my friends doing. And for the parents, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to support. What about like a robot that can be calibrated to use lasers to identify the angles? So we've seen the video of him using that, engaging as if he's a competitor in his old days. Seeing the smile, seeing the change in their functional ability is so rewarding. I mean, what is life without purpose? Sooner or later, I think we all have to deal with that question of how are we making sense of our lives? Hi, I'm Scott Miller, and this is the Good People Podcast.
It's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here.
Yes, welcome to another episode of the Good People Podcast, brought to you by In Other Good News. My name is Andy. You know, sometimes something good comes across your desk and it makes you sit up and pay attention. Today's guest and the organisation that he works for is definitely that. I was told of an organisation who does some amazing things in the community, and so I reached out and I said, we've got to chat. He is a man who is the CEO of Freedom Solutions, which is a volunteer-driven organisation. They make some amazing things for people with disability, and I'm going to let him explain this in a minute. He's been described by his peers as the best CEO I've ever experienced and a hugely authentic person. His name is Scott Miller, and I welcome him to the Good People Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Scott.
G'day, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I was blown away when I heard about what you do down at Freedom Solutions. And can we also, listeners, please buy Scott a free pass, because if he calls the business by the wrong name, it's exciting times because Freedom Solutions has just rebranded, hasn't it?
That's great, yes. It was Solve TAD, which feels like a maths problem that you had to solve back when you were doing high school maths.
Yep.
What is TAD? Who knew?
Yeah.
We never figured it out, so we had to change the name.
So it was called Solve TAD.
That's right.
But it's not a new organisation, is it?
No, it's been around for 45 years.
Yeah.
Various incarnations. So Solve being the Victorian entity that previously was called TAD Vic. And then TAD was New South Wales. And so when they merged just over 2 years ago, they decided what better name than Solve TAD. Which really didn't ring off the tip of the tongue, so it really felt pretty cold and frigid. So we had to do something about that. So.
Yep. So you're now called Freedom Solutions. That's only fairly recent. That's like late July.
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and so what I really want to do, I want to dive into what they do. Why don't we give that a high level, but then I want to hit on who Scott Miller is.
Yeah,
because that's a bit of a fun journey. Actually, here's a fun bit of insight. We found out while setting up for this podcast today that we are exactly the same age to the day.
That's right.
How's that? And so now I'm wondering, like, I've got a few more greys, so maybe I need it. But hey, it's I've met my brother from another mother, so that's my twin.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go. So Scott Miller, CEO of Freedom Solutions. Let's talk about what is Freedom Solutions. Actually, I'll give you the website straight off the top here: freedomsolutions.org.au. Okay. Go and check it out. What's Freedom Solutions? What do you do?
So we are, as you say, a volunteer-led community of makers that come together to solve problems in people's lives, particularly those that have got a disability that they can't solve through a commercial solution. So we have amazing people that give up their time, their workshops, and prototype and develop and design things that have never come across a commercial environment before. And those can be very simple adaptations to somebody's seating, their commode for their toilet, right through to mechatronics, electronics. You know, the mind baffles with what will come in front of us and what our community can design and develop. Is a truly inspirational environment.
It really is. I've seen some of the things. So the key thing to, I guess, think about, and this is someone coming from someone without disability, I guess, is that all disability is different.
And that's what makes it such a special intersection, that everybody has something different that they need customized to their height, their weight, their imperfections, or their opportunities for doing something a little bit differently.
Yeah. So you might be someone who has you have a disability with a loss of limb or something, and a conventional walker, say a walking frame, has two handles.
Totally.
And if anyone knows anything about balance, if you push something from one side,
that's right,
you turn in circles.
That's right.
Also, it's not very safe. So, for instance, that would be a fairly, what would you call it, like straight up kind of a modification for someone.
Yeah.
So you would do a few of those sort of things.
Yep. So we have a team of occupational therapists that go out and make sure that whatever our engineers or our architects or our makers are designing is human-centered, so that we do make sure that it doesn't have anything that's going to harm them, because sometimes our engineers come with a very functional product but may not necessarily fit the human ability, which can take a little bit of nuance. And so that's where there's a really beautiful complement between the therapy attribute and the engineering attribute.
And there are a lot of occupational therapists,
correct,
who do this anyway, don't they? I mean, they would visit a house.
Yep.
They would say, you need a handrail.
That's right.
You need a ramp.
Yep.
This is like the next step.
This
is like, you need something and it doesn't exist.
Yes.
So let's go see Freedom Solutions and see if we can make it happen.
Yeah.
And so, which is unreal. Like if you jump on the website, you'll see some of the cool stuff. But what's the flow? So people would come to Freedom Solutions via what? The website?
Yeah. So really, it comes at the moment a lot through occupational therapists in the community saying, you know what, we've heard about this this organisation of makers, because we can't find what we think would benefit you the most on the open market. So a lot of it is through the community of professionals of allied health, but we really do see more people saying, you know what, I have experienced something that I don't believe anyone else has. Let me just spitball this with the team. And so our folks will take that on board, and our resident engineer or our OTs will send it out to the community, and then they will have a think about it. And sometimes if it's in one of our regional areas, they'll come together once a month and over a cup of tea, chew on the fat about what might be a good idea, what materials, what structure, and then, you know, it could be something as simple as a PVC pipe or an old ironing board that could somehow find its way into a solution that has now been transformed.
So do they often use like upcycling? Do they use,
You bet. Yeah.
Oh, that's unreal.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah. So it's incredible. I mean, it's the medium of the person, obviously, that may look at it through the lens of wood or steel, or I mean, some of these people are just geniuses in their own right, really, and so they will look at it and just look at something that might be kicking around. Like we were talking to one of our volunteers a couple of weeks ago, 3:00 in the morning, and he was just wide awake thinking about the solution, and then it came to him, and it was the lever off a lawnmower that he saw that day in a shop, that he thought, that's what I need. I need that mechanism of how a lawnmower goes faster and slower. He could not find another place for that. So it was only $20 or something. So rather than having to go
fabricate that.
Yeah, exactly.
So he just, so it's like an off the shelf. Well, does he now have a whole lawnmower?
That's right. I don't know what happened to the rest of that lawnmower, but, you know.
He's going to part it out for the rest. He'll use the bits for all the other projects. Yeah. I'm waiting to see what he uses the motor for.
Go-karts or something.
Interesting. Well, let's dig into that. The volunteers. Who are the volunteers?
So predominantly they're retired. They've come from a technical background, though we have some folks that have been former accountants that just love tinkering. They may or may not have a workshop in their home, and they may or may not have any formal background. And so some of our folks, and they're typically men, but not necessarily, we've got a couple of women, will share and discuss both with our paid team and then with the wider community what their consideration is. And then it's that beautiful reciprocity of expressing an idea, taking it wider, and then coming back to it, prototyping it maybe once or twice, and then going forward and supplying that to to the client and seeing the smile, seeing the change in their functional ability is so rewarding. I mean, what is life without purpose? And sooner or later, I think we all have to deal with that question of how are we making sense of our lives? And so if you're retired especially, there's only so many times that you want to play golf or you want to go see something on at the cinema or what have you, that this really gives you a sense of expression. And it's not just a men's shed, nothing against men's sheds, but this is one individual that you are directly involved in the in the support and the impact of.
And their outcomes. So you've got you have a direct impact on the outcome for that person. That could be a lifelong, life-changing.
Look, you're dead right. And that's the fundamental tenet, I believe, of the NDIS, of what they're trying to achieve. So we're really complementing that sense of making that direct difference. We're not here to pad around the edges. We're going in with a specific goal, which is aligned with their care plan, their own goal agenda, and we're saying, right, we're going to help you. We've got the time through our volunteer community to help make this work. I mean, if this was commercial, you might not get it because it's a one-off. And in efficiencies, you're really seeking that ability to make that dollar quickly. And so we have that space and that luxury through our volunteer workforce that, as we say, are typically retired. So they have a different cadence to how they approach a problem, which is really valuable.
Yeah, well, it is because, like you say, there's no incentive to make one-offs and prototypes and stuff for one person because it's so individual. But with this, the value has changed because it is custom and it will change their life.
That's right.
Which is unreal. Talking about doing things with purpose, you're a man who does things with purpose. Your first job, though,
yes,
ExxonMobil.
That's right. Yes,
Big oil.
Big oil. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't strike me as an oil tycoon.
Well, my family do. So I came from a family of entrepreneurs, and so business was the mantra of my upbringing. So I was a child of a view that said, you will make lots of money. That's your purpose in life. Just go forward and climb that corporate ladder and see how you go. So I just nonchalantly, naively pursued that agenda without thinking about it. So, yeah, look, it's challenging, isn't it, that you are so brought up in the structures of what your family values are.
Yes.
And so how we leave that behind is an interesting experience.
Yeah. And then you did, like you said, you know what, big oil, maybe not for me. You're a speech pathologist.
That's right. Yeah. So it was, look, I'm sure with your listeners, they've all had to go through something similar at some stage in their life where they've got to say, what does this mean to me? What is my life going to contribute? And so when I left behind the idea that I would be at a desk pursuing the corporate agenda for X number of years versus what is an unspent life, which was the alternative, I thought this couldn't happen. So I had to look at what could give me that purpose in life, and found it through speech language therapy.
Yep. And that is it's a big change because that is a very personal, close contact individuals, and speech covers a lot of things too. It's not just speaking, it's swallowing and all sorts of stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, you bet. So coming from ExxonMobil, where you are taken seriously by how you walk, how much ego you can flex, to going down and playing cars and trains with a 3-year-old that has got a stutter is quite a difference of cadence. And so it's worth doing to really appreciate the humanity of what's involved in making somebody have that opportunity to experience that potential that they're looking for.
Yeah. And so I guess from there you started moving into things that would take you more towards volunteer work. Do you want to tell me, from your speech pathology, how long did it take you before you started getting into volunteer organisations?
Yeah, right. So going back as a mature student to study speech therapy, I needed to get a job, and so I took an opportunity at a Down syndrome social club, and that was my first experience with disability. I'd previously seen one chap at high school that would have been referred to as autistic back in the day. Being 81, that was a long time ago now. That we just referred to as Skippy, and so it was it was so unknown to us that we had a community of people with disability. So going into the environment of working with people with Down syndrome and identifying their own ambitions and social objectives, and experiencing that community of learning and sharing was a great start to how we apply a sense of humanity to our days and our lives. So it became pretty apparent that they had an incredible challenge in terms of how they navigate through the same challenges that we do. And so we were able to then identify the complementary services that are that we can offer through volunteering, and that's how myself and others got involved in providing that sort of wraparound to give them that opportunity for a more lived experience.
Yep. And did you have any, so for yourself, like those experiences, any standout stories there, or was it just an overall sort of sense of, an overall sense of this is a good thing to do? And
I was invited to a wedding once of two of the people that I was involved with at that social club. Two people with Down syndrome getting married is such an unknown horizon for a lot of people with Down syndrome. They're just regarded as platonic relationships that will pass. And so to be able to say that you were helping them build that sort of understanding of what does a relationship take, and how do we support them through that journey to getting married was a real privilege to go through.
There you go. Yeah, that would be, because I don't think I've ever witnessed a wedding for people with Down syndrome.
No, it's pretty uncommon. Just because, again, people will disregard that opportunity for, as you say, authentic love, thinking that it's a lot more transient. But we were able to see it flourish, and that was a real luxury.
Yeah. When was that?
Oh, that was when I was back in New Zealand, so probably about 12 or 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, if you haven't already heard the twang, it was from across the ditch. You ended up getting involved in New Zealand in Volunteer New Zealand?
That's right. So through that disability background, with what was called the UP Club, I took that idea, which was from Christchurch, brought it up to Wellington, and so we had a team of volunteers running a similar social club for people with Down syndrome in Wellington. And then when my board directors decided that they really enjoyed the exclusivity of a social club for people with Down syndrome, I said, that's not good enough. What about all these other folks with intellectual disability? What are they getting? What services? What opportunities? So we created another social club called Fuse, which was run along the same lines, and that again involved volunteers to make social opportunities an opportunity for people.
Yeah. Okay. That's it's nice. Like I like how the journey is just showing, like, the rewards you're getting from assisting people who wouldn't normally get the assistance.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I really like, because unless you spend time there and slow yourself down and be willing to be open, and you're never going to see it.
That's right.
Because the world wants to move on, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's so true. Look, a lot of these people with disability that we see in our community are only at the supermarket or only at the store, but they have the same ideas of achieving purpose, of achieving relationships that go past that transaction of their support worker, their care worker that is paid, and that's one of the transformative attributes of volunteering, is that you're doing it because you want to.
Yes.
You've prioritized your discretionary time, and you've said, I'm going to use my time not for a goal or watching Netflix, but for the opportunity of giving to somebody who I am without any return or expectation. And that's basically what a friendship is.
Yeah. Yeah, that would mean a lot, wouldn't it? To have actual friendships.
Yeah. Well, when you know that, like, they're only there because they're getting paid, and that's their motivation, and you're there because you don't have that. So what is bringing you there has got to be something more deeper, more personal.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's Volunteering New Zealand, or NZ, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, you've come across to Australia. Very similar role, actually, Volunteering Vic. Is that what it's called?
Right,
Volunteer Vic?
Yeah. So again, a peak body that focused on advocacy and improving the experience of volunteers. So as through COVID, we lost a remarkable number of volunteers.
Yeah.
And so people are saying, help my organization. We need more volunteers because we want to continue doing that impact that we believe in for our community. But volunteers were like, well, look, especially older folks, were like, hey, I don't need this in my life anymore because it was beginning to get too onerous or too compliance heavy or too much expectation. So a lot of older volunteers left. So the likes of Volunteering New Zealand, Volunteering Victoria focus on how do we maximize the impact of a volunteer's experience. They're busy people. They want to make sure they have a high impact experience.
Yep.
So we're educating organizations to make sure that they were able to look after their volunteers to ensure that they were giving that experience as effectively as possible.
Yeah, right. So who are these people volunteering? What do they do?
So we have volunteers in all aspects of our community doing all sorts of things from food recovery to environment to culture, education. And so typically we say that, people will volunteer if they've volunteered at school through a civil service project, then they'll follow on into adult life. And clearly when you have children, then your volunteering takes your children's objectives. And then as people leave the workforce, this is where we're capturing them in my current job, is saying here's a pathway so that you can stay committed and engage with your community. You don't have to just leave that all behind and just regress into your own life. There's much more to be recognised.
And it's a shame to waste a lifetime of experience in, say, engineering or something to just go, well, I've retired now.
Yeah, look, so my own father is an example of that, where he has a beautiful big workshop and he makes shoe horns, and that's the things that help, put on your shoes.
Shoe on your foot, yeah.
Yep. And it's like, come on, Dad, like you could be doing this sort of thing in New Zealand where you could help somebody other than yourself, because and it's only for him and his friends. It's like you could be doing more. Like, wouldn't your sense of purpose, your sense of achievement, accomplishment be feeling so much more enriching if you were doing something for somebody else other than just manufacturing these odds and sods?
Odds and sods.
Yeah.
If the odds and sods had a strong purpose, they'd be fantastic odds and sods.
I think it would make him a lot more satisfied with his retirement.
I think so as well. I've got someone for you. After this, I've thought of someone who does this.
Great.
And he's a freak engineer. He makes everything.
Yes.
So I'm gonna tell you about him afterwards. Exactly that. Has all the skills, the know-how, needs something to do as well. Has all the time for people. Yeah, exactly the kind of people. But you talk about challenges though, because if these people are retired people, we know that. Geographically, block sizes are changing. People are moving into smaller places.
Totally.
You're saying that's a problem for you, right?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, so we have this challenge, as a lot of our volunteers have established themselves in their working lives and they've had big workshops where they've been able to apply themselves, and they're starting to downsize. So we're having to think about what is a younger generation of volunteer that is technically minded going to want to need from us to be able to involve themselves, because we need a workforce continuity plan so that when they do decide after their years of service with us that they're going to move on, then we need to replenish them. So we've got this great example of this young guy that works at Boeing. He's an amazing engineer.
To Boeing, the aircraft company.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and he's using CAD and he's thinking really hard about how he's applying the techniques of his day job into the work that he's applying for us. And so he did this really remarkable piece of engineering recently where he fitted some screens to the back of a car to help the two children in the back with their car journeys, because I think there were some challenges with their behavior. And so the way he approached it was a lot more contemporary to the older volunteer, which would have taken a much different view. So, and there's another level of reciprocity there, which is the differences in how we approach a challenge using the technology that is now available.
Yeah, because the younger generation are more connected to the technology, so they're going to be thinking newer technology as opposed to nuts and bolts. And
exactly, they're modelling it on their computer in terms of the
I was thinking about 3D printing.
Yeah, that's right.
Surely that's going to be a thing, right?
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
If you had a ton of volunteers who were great at 3D printing plastics or metals,
that's right.
That would be really useful.
And we're seeing it, as you say, increasingly in the younger people that are saying, I can use that lateral thinking of printing in a 3D, especially for people with limb disorders, to how do we manufacture something that is to that degree of uniqueness. And that's remarkable that we can see that. Our older folks are a little bit less inclined to see it through that lens, and that's where there's that complement between the younger and the older volunteers when we get it right.
Yeah, that's a melting pot of skills and ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's unreal. Have you got any? Tell me about some of any standout projects, because I know, they're all good, but there's got to be some crackers in there. I've seen a few on the website, but.
Look, we had a case study just the other day of this woman that has multiple sclerosis, and she's a young mum, and she is a wheelchair most of the time, and she wanted to be able to move her daughter around, and her daughter is like 18 months old, so she can't push a pram and push herself at the same time. So we had a volunteer engineer an attachment to her wheelchair so that she can have the baby in her crib attached to the wheelchair so that she can push her around and move her from bedroom to bedroom with this crib. So it required a lot of thinking about how to articulate this sort of forward placement of this crib, the wheel, the load, and how it was done was an incredible journey, because again, it's unique that we're not going to find off the street that sort of market for people that want to take a wheelchair and move a baby around their home
specific.
with it. Yeah,
it's quite specific. Yeah. It just makes me think. I think I know the second customer.
Yeah.
Talk about customer. Who pays for this? How do you fund it?
Yep. So we are a predominant number of NDIS clients, but not everyone's in the NDIS. So we also are a philanthropic charity. So we receive grants and people give generously to us to support the options when there is no other funding available. And so that helps us keep our costs down and provides that opportunity if money is an issue in your life, either because the NDIS declined you or you don't have other means of accessing. So we can make generally make opportunities for grant funding available.
Yeah. And do you, I guess, what are the economic challenges for Freedom Solutions? Like, what are the main things that you face? Because the problem with giving is that it's expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you bet. So I think as a charity, we're very steeped in the idea that we should be looking after our costs as closely as we possibly can. And that's important for any organization. But I think how we as an organization over the 40 years have done that has meant that we've not really considered the way that we charge to the NDIS for that cost. And so as we professionalize, we have insurances, we have OTs that are that need to be paid according to their ability. Otherwise, they would not stay with us. Means that we've got to think about how we provide that service at a price point that is sustainable. Yeah. So too often we as a charity we discount to the funder, and so inevitably we've been losing a lot of money. So we've got our work cut out for us as we try and say, yes, we're a charity, but we also have to recover the appropriate level of costs involved.
Charities are still businesses at the end of the day, right? Yeah, you still got the same business metrics.
That's right.
And if you have no money, you can't do anything.
We can't attract talent. We can't, if we didn't have the ability to pay our staff, then we would not have the ability to have these really strong people giving their best. And that would impact the outcomes to the person with a disability.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about personally, like challenges, I guess, with your own beliefs with like fiscal responsibility versus like personal values?
Totally.
Like where do they butt heads?
Oh, look, all the time. So we as a charity, we want to make sure that our people are well looked after. We want to make sure that we're doing the best by them, and then we also have to consider that there are requirements that we do run efficiently, and so constantly we're having to ask: is this the best structure for our organisation, and what does that mean, and how do we ensure that we are not wasting our money, and yet at the same time we know that everyone has an important job to play, and so we have to constantly look at things through that same economics of cost benefit, and where do we say that this is more important or less important than something else. And so there's a real trade-off inherently in a low margin, low volume environment which we're currently in, to how we extract that maximum impact, that maximum value for both the customer, for the funder, and then for the sustainability of the organization. That we're constantly driving for that balance. And I guess it's more difficult in a charity environment because we talk about the triple bottom line, which is that we're not just for the dollar. We're also super important, focused on what the customer and what the community sees as the value that we're providing, because otherwise we lose our social license.
Yeah, okay. And like I guess that's pretty important too, because it's got to, you not only, you need to be doing the right thing, but also, unfortunately, with these sort of situations, it's got to be quite present. People got to be able to see what you're doing in order to sustain. Because with a lot of things, funding can dry up if people can't quite understand what it is that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, and I think that's a real reason for changing the name, was to give people that exposure to what is it that we're trying to achieve. Now, Freedom Solutions does that a whole lot better than Solve TAD. So the board recognised that, and they've done a great job of helping us through that process of getting this name across the line, getting some beautiful new logos and colours into our system, which is really helpful. I think as well for our volunteers to recognise that we are a community. We're part of the community. Again, we're not just disassociating from that transactional nature of good and service, but we're building a membership. We're building a sense of what care and technical experience can do together, which has improved lives, which comes back to purpose. It's not just, again, about manufacture for the sake of $1. It is really about how we can give that person that sense of impact.
Yeah, that's right. You do have some products that are sort of universally useful. So I saw on the website you have some products with just sort of raising tables.
That's right.
What else is on there? What sort of?
So we have previously been funded to buy a CNC machine. So we use that, which is a laser cutting. Like it's probably bigger than a pool table. Like they're really quite considerable, high tech. So we've been able to use that to remove some of that sort of hand sawing, hand cutting sort of work, and give it a uniform professionalism that you can't necessarily get in one's own workshop. So that's been really game changing for us in terms of how we can provide what we call adaptable solutions, which are manufactured again by our volunteer workforce to provide a uniform specification that is precision to the millimeter. So step and rails and the like have become an interesting addition to our repertoire.
Yeah, of course. And also just thinking in construction and things, there are regulations for size of steps and all that sort of stuff. I guess that's probably going to be part of it, is it?
Well, because technically a lot of our stuff is one-off, we can escape the conundrum of the TGA standards. But look, you're right. We have an engineer on staff to make sure that we have that assessment of when something is bordering into particularly compliance or technical, that he can provide that assessment and ensure that we're doing it right. And then if not him, then we have a peer review team as well of volunteers that will oversee those specifications.
Yeah. It just reminded me of a time that a friend asked me to make her a set of steps, and I was like, yeah, no worries. She had some old timber, and so I helped make these steps, except when I made them, not knowing anything about steps, not realizing that the length of the platform is really important.
Yes.
I made these tiny little steps, which if you walked down forwards, like your heel would just connect, and you'd probably go flying over backwards.
Yeah.
I made unsafe steps, like worse than not having steps in the first place. But that was something I didn't even think about.
No.
So you've got to have, it's not just can you make it.
That's right.
It's is it then going to make the person's life better, safer, whatever? So that's a lot of consideration, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's a great example of where an engineer will make it, but they're not necessarily thinking about, well, maybe this person's got an unsteady gait. And that's where the OT really can apply their own experience of saying, well, okay, well, we know that with that unsteady gait, they're going to need a margin of error of
it's like walking, right?
Yeah,
that unsteady walk.
That's right.
Yep.
So they'll look at it through that lens of saying, well, we need to make sure that we've got a suitable degree of comfort here to ensure that they remain safe. Because otherwise, the engineer will just make something with steps that go up or down.
Or like comfort as well, because if you're leaning on it all day, that's a big consideration.
You bet. So again, we've got all those pressure sort of observations that need to be taken into consideration. So our OTs are remarkable people that are ensuring that whatever is built is going to sustain that person and not add to their conundrum.
I think OTs are underrated. Could most people tell you what an OT does? I'm going to say probably not.
No, I don't think so. I reckon a lot of people would think that it's the people that come into their office to fix their table and chair and make sure they're not getting occupational overuse syndrome. But look, OTs, they are incredible people. The way that they think and approach a situation of how an occupation is considered is really something.
They become very important for the elderly, the disabled, basically allowing you to live safely in your own home again.
Yeah.
That's important, right? Like you've got to be able to live in your own home otherwise you've got to be shipped off to somewhere else, which is not fun.
Yeah. And there's a huge demand on them at the moment as well. So we're lucky we've got a really wonderful team of them. But to lose them or to find any new ones is pressing because everyone's realizing just how important they are to leading a good life.
And then you work with external organisations as well on a very similar way. You would work together on the same problem that they would be having for their client.
Yep.
Yeah.
So look, we've done some really great work with hospitals and with therapy clinics to ensure that we can provide them, again, with what they require. And so given that we've got some really strong experience in health and disability, we can give them a really useful ability to maximise what we've done in the past and apply that for their own situation or circumstance.
Yeah, I think it's really great. What are some of the tell me about the you told me about this and this is unreal. Tell me about the guy that you made the pool table device for.
Yeah.
I'll let you explain. I can't explain it.
Sure.
Explain it very well.
So we've got a chap that used to be able to play pool and then he had an incident or an accident there that meant that he became a quadriplegic. So he couldn't use his arms or his legs. He loved going to the pub to be able to enjoy that social atmosphere and also to shoot a little bit of pool with his mates.
Yep.
So he's now in a wheelchair and he uses the gear stick to move around and what have you. So that's really debilitating for his ability to enjoy what were his activities of daily life. He came to us and asked us to help him experience the joy of playing pool with his friends. It's one thing to look at his mates playing pool, but he wanted to say, I can do that. So he came to us and we said, right, let's see what we've got. So we sent the opportunity out to our volunteer team, and one incredible volunteer looked at the question in hand and said, look, what about a robot that can be calibrated to use lasers to identify the angles, and we will calibrate the tension of the ball to shoot it into the pockets. And so he really amazingly, through just equipment around his own house and through circuit boards that he had and what have you, was able to build what kind of looks like R2-D2, but has an ability to shoot the ball into the holes. Yeah. Through the remote control of this guy using his gear stick on his wheelchair. So it's incredibly complex and yet gives him. So we've seen the video of him using that at the local club, engaging as if he's a competitor in his old days.
Yeah, it's unreal. Now I really love that story. That's a really great example, and I'm going to challenge it with just some. I don't know what else to call it, but street thinking. I don't know. We are really quick these days to ignore the basics of fundamental human need because of I feel it's things around consumerism and stuff like that. We are really quick to ignore the basics. Why would we spend so much time and energy on building something for someone to play pool? Why does that even matter? Couldn't he have built something that was much more useful? This is me playing devil's advocate here, and this is a question I'm sure that there's someone thinking now. Isn't that a waste of resources?
Well, I think it comes back to the structure of the NDIS is that you have goals. Like the NDIS transformed people's perception of what disability is from the medical model of you must be fixed, and so we will just fix your disability, to wrapping around like what the UN or the ICF calls International Classification of Functioning. So function takes various forms. Now, clearly there's activities of daily life, but we are more than just the activities of daily life. We also need a social network, a social environment to operate, because without that, then we're just hermits sitting at home in our disability.
Yes.
So we need to be able to say, what is it that gives you or I a good life? For you, it might be music. For me, it might be exercise. Now, if you're confined to a wheelchair, what is going to give you that same value as a human, as you say, of the right to a good life? And so if that's Paul, and you have a care plan that enables that ability to say, we can help support you to what is considered a good life, then I don't think we should be drawing too fine a figure on what that might look like. But given that we have an opportunity through our workforce and through our organisation, through the philanthropy, to complement or to support people to achieve what may be considered for them their best life, is really important.
Yeah, and you'd never hear, and this is the classic on the deathbed sort of quote, on the deathbed no one ever says, I wish I'd worked more, and I wish I'd, I want to live a good life.
Yes.
And because, like, there would be someone scientific, maybe I've got to get someone on the show, someone scientific who could explain the chemical releases and stuff that you get when you live a purposeful life, as opposed to feeling like you're, which is, I think, I could relate it to the living poor, or people who just work to live and just are working every day, and all you do is work and then go home, and then go to work, go home, and that's that's your whole life.
Yeah, that's right.
The advantage of giving someone a tool or an opportunity to do something that gives them happiness, which chemically releases stuff that will then tomorrow make their day better.
Yep.
They'll be more motivated to do new things, more motivated to improve their life as well.
Yep.
Like, it's got to be a good thing.
Yeah. Look, I think fundamentally everyone wants to be active. Everyone wants to participate and give. Not everyone wants to take and receive the whole time. And we find this in volunteering. The reason most people want to volunteer is to give back, or to feel like they're doing something for somebody else. We've got this human need to be able to reciprocate. And that means to do more than just sit from the sidelines. So for the guy with the pool table, I mean, it would be pointless for him to just cheer everybody else on and not feel like he's a part of that. And I think we see that through young people that get into volunteering, because they see a need that they want to remedy or affect. And so through to older people as well, at the other end of their working life, saying, I still have something that I can do, so I will make it happen, rather than just sit and let somebody else take control of that narrative for them.
Yeah, you got more choice. More choice. More choice equals more happiness. And better quality of life and that sort of thing. And not everyone is, like, that's a fairly severe case. Quadriplegic is quite severe. Some of your clients would be obviously far less disabled. So they might be just quite literally a helping hand, for want of a better pun.
Absolutely.
Have you got any other stories off the cuff that you can think of which are standouts?
Look, we have done some really great work just with people that want to be able to garden. They've had a stroke. And so as I was talking to one of our volunteers yesterday, he was saying some of the best solutions we do are the most simplest solutions.
Yeah.
We have somebody that is in a wheelchair and she loves gardening. She can't get down anymore. So we were able to make a one-handed weeder so that she can go out and pick weeds in her garden.
Right.
So, so typically you would need two hands to be able to extract enough apply enough pressure onto the gadget. So our technical team have been able to come up with a one-handed weed picker. And it's like, this is just little things. Again, it's not necessarily things that are going to mean that they're going to be more economically productive, but they're are things that give that person that same sense of joy. Now, a purpose of a clean garden or an aesthetic garden is again, it's not uneconomic to try and apply a lens like that, but to be able to say, I don't need somebody else to do that. I am able to
keep my own garden.
Gives them that sense of purpose. So
absolutely.
It can be really simple things like that give a great deal of satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the other side of that is not maintaining your garden, but also not being able to afford maintaining your garden. What happens to a garden? It can be a real negative impact.
Well, I agree. It's something that you can personally take control of and have that architecture when everything else is being done for you in your life. People tell you your schedule of when you can go somewhere because you've got to be driven or you've got to do whatever. This is something that you have the control over, which is super important in a world.
I have to admit, my dark sense of humour is imagining Tim the Toolman Taylor designing devices for you guys with big engines and over the top, like imagining the garden taking out like a square foot of turf or something. It doesn't just do it; it rips the whole thing out.
Look, and that's something I reflect on as well as when we have a community of makers. Not everyone is thinking in the most efficient. Some people may obviously want to over-engineer it just to show their sophistication and complexity. So, again, I think that's how we balance our team is through that sense of OT and engineer complement to ensure that it's refined and as applicable as best as possible. Because you're right, otherwise we could have some pretty extraordinary V8 engines attached to our equipment
that need a 6 monthly tune up and a regular maintenance schedule. And that's not, they don't need that.
No,
they don't need a regular. They don't need a regular maintenance schedule to keep them going. So and I'm assuming not all projects go through as well.
No, that's right. Yeah. So a lot of projects do, but sometimes our prototyping process can just be too complex, or it's too fragile, or especially in 3D printing, like some of these things that we require can just fail too soon or just not work. So there's always that risk that whatever.
What about, I was just thinking too, like, because you've got 250 volunteers on the books, you were saying. I'm imagining something like an Uber, like, bing, I've got a job, you've got to build this, and who grabs it? But geographically, because you do site visits with them too, right? So they actually go and have a look.
Correct.
Like the OT does. And they have to physically see the job and the project. So geographically, that's a challenge. So you have to find the right person in the right area.
That's right. So if you can ask me, where do I see us in 5 years' time? We have this need for rebuilding our community. COVID, as I was saying earlier, was devastating to Freedom Solutions as well as to a lot of other community organisations. So last couple of weeks ago, we had a referral from somebody in Shepparton. We had somebody that was in East Gippsland that needed a solution, and it's heartbreaking to decline them because we don't have anybody in those areas at the moment that can meet that need. But we know that there's makers out there that will be willing to be involved if we could build the support to help them engage with our team. But we're not there at the moment, so we have to decline those roles. So geographically, we can be quite limited, which is a disappointment.
It would be, because you might have something that, if it was in a different spot, would be achievable.
Oh, you bet.
Or more than achievable. Easily achievable.
Yeah. So our teams, particularly in Geelong and the Mornington Peninsula, and also we have a sizable team in Mildura, are great examples of when a community comes together, not just for one-off jobs, but as a collective to do that sharing, to have that opportunity to be social and technical at the same time is a really great thing.
Yeah, it would be a great outlet for them, actually, wouldn't it? You could tinker with other tinkerers.
Yes.
I think that'd be good, because you really are matching, like, again, if you go out and play golf or something, you could, nice diversity of people you'll get there, but it's not the same level of conversation that you could have with someone who you really, you're like, check this out. I've just increased the torque on this baby by 2 Newton meters or something. I don't know. Am I talking the right language?
No, you absolutely are.
But, like, that's what I'm imagining. They can have little geek offs. Who's doing the best?
Oh, and it refines their process and it keeps them fresh and it gives them a new way of contemplating a solution. Because again, it's so unique what we're doing that it can sometimes define a totally different trajectory for a solution and give people new skills. And who doesn't want to learn new skills or new ways of approaching a challenge?
Yeah, it really is good for everyone. What's in the future? You've got to, I guess, work out ways to. The financial side is always going to be a challenge. What else is coming up in the future? Where do you want to take it?
So we are experiencing an influx of cheap products that can do the job from China. So the likes of AliExpress and Amazon are opening up a marketplace for some solutions that were not available. And to your previous point, where the economy of products means that things are cheap and they can be thrown away, whereas previously you would build something and you would retain it, and that's changing. So we think there's clearly a need for people to have a customized solution, but we are seeing that some of our challenge is that the technology is accommodating more people as plastics and products are made for more people with disability than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So in the future, we need to be keeping up to date with the 3D printing wave, the CAD opportunity of how we maintain what is best practice for our customers, so that they are proud of what they're getting as well. Because the last thing we want them to think is that this has been made in some volunteer shed and isn't something that they're going to feel like is appropriate for their lifestyle. So we've got some challenges there to making sure that we keep our workforce not only age relevant, but also quality relevant.
Yeah, and it's not just like whether or not you've got the best carbon fiber prosthetic, but it's like if it is bulky and ugly and whatever, are you going to want to be seen using it? I can see why that could actually be a thing, even though I know, again, there's going to be someone saying, be thankful.
Yes.
Which I agree in the functionality. But again, like you were saying, thank you for something that someone's built, but really, if it doesn't quite fit you, so that would be really important, I think.
It's super important. And we do see that where people are saying, well, I don't like the look or I don't like the color. And so we do need to make sure that we are listening early on. And again, this is where we have a nice complement between, don't want to stereotype, but some of our older men say, well, take it or leave it. And we say, no, this is about what the customer wants. And this is what the NDIS is driving as well, as that innovation to ensure that we are meeting what the disabled person wants. In the old days, it was like, well, you should be grateful because I'm doing this and you didn't have anything that could do it.
You didn't have it before.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so one of our board members speaks on that sort of experience of her own son's journey, where in the old days, she was made to feel like as a charity that she should be grateful. But now that she has the power through the funding that the NDIS provides her, she can say, no, I'm paying good money for this. I want it to do X or Y or look like X or Y.
Yeah. And I think the easiest way to relate to that is when someone gives you a present, a Christmas present or something that you don't want or is impractical.
Yes.
It's just something that you don't want or need, and them giving it to you, they're saying, well, I've given it to you.
That's right.
You should be thankful for a gift.
Yes.
And you're like, but it's made my life worse.
Yes.
Or more inconvenient.
No, exactly.
So it is important. Have you got an influx at the moment with requests for pink things with the whole Barbie phenomenon? Is that
no,
something?
I haven't seen it yet.
No, I'm waiting for it.
Pink bikes. We also sell bikes to help support our charitable drive for providing these unique solutions. So we customize bikes, and so pink bikes are always really popular for our children that we can get off to them. So look, I think we might need to try and get ahead of the wave there, so we can start promoting more pink things early on.
Get on the pink bikes. What do you do to the bikes?
So we customize bikes to ensure that basically anybody can ride a bike, whatever your gross motor skills are, because you may have poor body posture or poor muscle control. We can tailor a bike to anybody's needs and requirements, which is pretty special.
Yeah.
Because the ability to ride a bike is quite a fun experience that, again, suits a lot of people to be able to get out there and feel like they're doing what everybody else is doing.
Well, I think that very much aligns with Freedom Solutions, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that name, the more I think about it, is actually a really good name, because it literally is a solution to give you back or to give you freedom.
That's right. And so
Yeah.
Freedom Wheels is the name of our bike business.
All right, Freedom
Yeah.
Wheels.
Yes.
Can you find that on the same website?
You can,
So-
or also freedomwheels.org.au.
freedomwheels.org.au. I'll put all these links in the show notes and on the episode as well if you're watching it. So you can head to freedomsolutions.org.au or freedomwheels.org.
That's right.
Is there any other sites that people should look at?
Look, that's the two main ones for us.
Yep.
So we've got this brand spanking new Freedom Solutions website,
Yep.
and it's going to grow as we tell more of the stories of what our volunteers and our community is doing to
Yep.
make lives better, which is always important.
Yeah, that's good. And also, who are you looking for? You want more volunteers these days?
Oh yeah, look, never have enough volunteers that want to help be involved in changing somebody's life for the better. You don't need to know all the technical skills. You don't need to have a workshop, because we will match you up to give you that opportunity to learn, to be involved, because a lot of these older folks that we have on our books would love to be able to share that experience with somebody else, to be able to walk them through the lessons that they learned, to being able to have that skill and technique. So it's always, and then for those that are looking at their retirement, thinking, gosh, I could be thinking, or their parents or their grandparents doing some more in their community. Look, we can find something.
Yeah.
So some of our volunteers are not hard technical; they're upholsterers, or they just like doing some administration, and we have clearly a role for anybody that wants to become involved.
So how do they get in contact if you want to volunteer?
So on our website, there is a Get Involved side, and if they go down to volunteer, then they'll be able to submit a form and expression, and we'll be in touch with how they can get involved.
And looking at you, Shepparton.
Yes, that's right.
All you in Shepparton, get on board. And also then, do you take, because we were talking about funding and stuff before, do you take cash donations? Is that something you do?
Not really, no. We tend to focus more on our campaigns, which are twice a year, where we'll go out with a request that people will give money through one of our fundraising platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they in? Do you do that with, like, is there a purpose to the fundraising apart from obviously raising money?
Yeah.
Does it have a theme to it or something?
Yeah. So look, the last one was about a young girl that wanted to learn to ride a bike, and so we've typically got about 70 or 80 people on our wait list looking to get funding for a bike, and so our tax appeal was really successful at people supporting the idea that there are people out there that want to ride a bike but need the extra money to be able to fund the modifications that we provide to those bikes. And so there's a lot of generous people out there that want to see the opportunity, and it's really inspiring and a privilege to be able to support that.
Yeah, I like that. And it's something that has been discussed on this show quite a lot of times, is tangible benefit is a really strong way of getting people involved.
Yes.
There are so many please give to this good cause options, but when you can see that you'll put you'll make someone's life really good and really happy because they can now ride a bike because you did that donation, I think it's a really good thing to do.
Yeah. Look, we have the opportunity to see these young people that have their parents come alongside, and they've never thought their child would be able to ride a bike, and then you see the tears, you see the transformation and the confidence of that young person from saying, I can now do what I see my friends doing, and for the parents, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to support.
It would be. That'd be really rewarding for you as well, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. Coming from ExxonMobil, where all I was doing was plugging numbers into a computer, ensuring that fuel consignments were organised, to now seeing people have such an opportunity to live their best life is really remarkable.
Yeah, look, I love this. I really love this. And like I say, when I found out about it, and you were called Solve.
Yes.
I didn't know the other bit.
No.
Solve, what was the last bit?
TAD.
Solve TAD. I didn't know about the TAD bit, but I'd heard about Solve. And I went,
yes.
I can just picture these people tinkering on these projects and having seen the impact that some of these things can make on people's lives. I know how important it is. And so I said, I've got to get this fella in here.
Yes.
I've got to talk to him. So what I will do is I'll thank you, Scott Miller, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I've really appreciated you giving us your time today. You're a busy guy. You've got some pink bikes to build and
That's right.
And all sorts of other things, some pool games to make happen and stuff like that. So Thank you so much. Again, that website is freedomsolutions.org.au, brand spanking new website. It's all shiny still. No scuffs as yet, so let's keep it nice and tidy. But thank you so much for all that you do, for keeping these volunteers in order and your staff and that down there. And I wish you all the best moving forward with all the projects that you're working on, because I think it's fantastic, and there should be more organisations like Freedom Solutions.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the showcase for our wonderful team of volunteers that are generously giving their time to make this happen. Without them, we wouldn't have an organisation. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, volunteers. Not just Freedom Solutions, but everywhere.
That's right.
Give your time if you've got the skills. That's fantastic. So thank you, Scott Miller, for coming on to the Good People podcast. That website again, freedomsolutions.org.au. But for now, thank you so much for coming on the show. I will call you on your birthday. I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. We share a birthday and a birth year.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciated it. This has been the Good People podcast, brought to you by In Other Good News. If you're watching this right now, look down the bottom, hit subscribe and like and make a comment. Tell us what you think of the show. All of that helps. It doesn't just help you and I connect, but it also means that someone else will see it, and that means a lot to us. So if you could do that. If you're listening to this on podcasts, say Apple, for instance, follow the show. We really appreciate it, and tell your friends, because the more good stories like this we can tell, it actually helps everyone downstream so much. So again, thank you for tuning in. This has been the Good People podcast. My name is Andy, and we will see you on the next episode.
Well, it's a tip of the cap, it's a pat on the back, it's a smile from ear to ear. They're the good people from round here. They're the good people from round here. Come on, let me introduce you to a few.